I know what it is. GMOG Sports TV back with another one. Had to do a quick thumbnail for my little thumb point. But anyway, family, we back at another video, and I just want to address this this tweet by Terence Crawford on X, aka Twitter, where he retweets from another Twitter account. He goes by the name of According To. Y'all know who. Okay, if y'all know who I'm talking about, his name starts with According To. But basically, the guy on Twitter who I'm referring to, he pulled out an old ass video from December of 2020, where Canelo Alvarez was facing Caleb Smith, right? Where he was facing Caleb Smith, and Canelo just moved up to 168, right, at the time. So that was actually his first fight at 168 around December of 2020. And so he was being interviewed by Fight Hub. And one of the questions was, hey, would you consider, because Spence was a hot topic. It wasn't Crawford. Spence versus Canelo was always a hot topic before Crawford and Spence even fought each other. The fight between Spence and Canelo has been brewing for years. This whole shit, and I'm kind of like fast forwarding a little bit, but this whole shit right now between Crawford and Canelo is brand new. Ever since Crawford ran through Spence, now we're talking about another smaller man moving up in weight to fight Canelo. This is brand new. Again, the fight between Spence and Canelo has been brewing for years before Crawford and Spence ever fought. But Canelo was asked about a potential fight between himself, Canelo, and Spence at a catchweight of 164, right? And at that time of that interview where Terence was referring to, Canelo says, yes, he would go down to 160, actually, 160 pounds to fight Canelo. That's because the man just literally at the time moved up in weight from 160 to 168. So he wasn't really even fully acclimated at the weight class. He was brand new, fresh off of fighting Golovkin at the time for 160 and moved up to face Caleb Smith at 168. So that's the context. And then that's people don't read into context a lot. They just retweet stuff without researching, looking at the timestamps, looking at where it came from, the why, the how, the what, all that stuff. I like to look at things from all perspectives and understand the inception of how things started. Right? That's what I do. So, yeah, he pulled out a video and tweeted that, right? And then Terence Crawford retweeted that by basically saying, or utilizing the words that Canelo used, saying, yeah, I'll go down to fight Spence at 160, but yeah, you can't fight me at 168. Would make a difference, right? When, there's videos which I'll play right now.
Tremendous talent. I don't never think me and Canelo will fight at least. I don't never think me and Canelo will fight at least, what, 168, 175, I'm just 147, so I'll never see that fight ever really happen.
So Crawford has been a flip-flopper for years, right? So he's been a flip-flopper for years. He's always said he'll never fight Canelo Alvarez. Ever since he demolished Spence, even after he demolished Spence, he said he wouldn't fight Canelo Alvarez. He would like to fight Canelo at a catchweight, which is 158. That was a week before. Then he changed his mind the following week and said on the podcast with Joe Rogan, he says, yes, I'll fight Canelo at 168. Joe Rogan has arguably the biggest podcast today. He said it on his platform. And of course, fighting Canelo will give a 36-year-old man, as in Terence Crawford, his biggest payday of his career. If you look at it, it's actually unfortunate that it took this man at the age of 36 to get his most notable win, right? And still asking for a career payday with Canelo Alvarez. These are accomplishments that Canelo has done for years, right? In his 20s. And finally, you know, Terence Bud Crawford is getting the recognition he deserves, obviously so. But 36, that took a long time for him to get a notable win on his resume and to call out the cash cow of boxing, which is Canelo Alvarez. Now all of a sudden, he wants to fight Canelo Alvarez and move up with no exception. No catch weight, wants to move up. And quote unquote, dare to be great, which is the cliche term. I don't like using that term. But daring to be great to move up 3 weight classes to fight Canelo Alvarez at 168. If you can't see that that's the cash out fight, if you can't see that it has more to do with money, it has more to do with financials than legacy. And I don't want to hear this comparison between Terence Crawford and Roy Jones. Roy Jones, when he moved up to fight John Ruiz at heavyweight, he moved up from 175 to heavyweight, which is over 200 pounds, to fight John Ruiz. All right? When he moved up to fight John Ruiz, it was for legacy, not for money. He wasn't fighting. First of all, when he moved up in weight, that wasn't his biggest purse. So money was not the answer. Money was not the influence on Roy Jones moving up in weight to fight John Ruiz. It was to make history, and it was for legacy. It has more to do with that than money. But on the other hand, it has majority, I say 90% of it to do with money. The 10% is about legacy. Because guess what? If he decides to move up in weight and fight Canelo at 168, and if he loses, it's still a win for him, because guess what? People are going to deem him as he was daring to be great. He was 3 weight classes above his head, and he tried to be great. And I would imagine that Terence Crawford will put up a better fight than Jermell Charlo would, because he'll show more resistance. But as you know, when you show resistance with Canelo, that's what he likes. He usually stops his opponents when they show more resistance. Especially a man who's moving up 3 weight classes to fight Canelo, who's already been established at that weight class for years. It's just too many unknown variables when it comes to Terence Bud Crawford moving up in weight, where people automatically assume that all the physical attributes that he has at 147 will translate over to 168, right? Even, listen, you have pundits out here, and I watch boxing every day. Y'all know that. I watch videos and everything else like that. You got people like Timothy Bradley, who mentioned the Porsche analogy, where you race a Porsche on the track, it goes around perfectly fine, the performance is great, but if you put a couch on top of that Porsche, it's totally different going up around the track. Same thing with that perfect analogy. Same thing with adding 21 pounds of muscle, a performance muscle, to compete at 168 pounds. You're going to be completely different. So, again, there's too many unknown variables, and people who are leaning towards Bud to actually beat Canelo, you're only basing that off of him fighting at 147. He's never fought at 168 and haven't even been damn near nowhere near that weight class, not even at 160, let alone 154. But yet you're assuming because he's able to dominate and stop his opponents at 147, it's going to translate over to 168. Right? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't mean that, Crawford doesn't have a chance. It just basically means that you're pulling things literally out of nowhere, because you have nothing to base that off of other than him fighting at a weight division 3 weight classes down at 147. You can only say, hey, he's able to do this to Spence, then he could do it to Canelo. It's completely not the same. Completely not the same. All right? So I just wanted to point that out, family, man. Like, you got guys who make up shit out of thin air, right? Who post videos out of context, or don't have context to the videos because it's something that was done, or an interview that was done with Canelo December of 2020 before he fought Caleb Smith. And, again, there's videos and things of that nature. And after the fact that when he said he'll fight Spence at 160, after he beat Caleb Smith, and in May of 2022, Tom Brown was offered to fight to Canelo for Spence for $55 million at a catch weight of 164, and he rejected it. Canelo rejected it, right? The article's on Boxing Scene. So, you know, like I said, family, like y'all just got to just do your research and pay attention, because that shit don't make no sense for real. But anyway, those are my thoughts on that, family. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think about what Terence Bud Crawford said about Canelo making exceptions for Spence at 160, but scared to fight Canelo at scared to fight Canelo at 168. Let me know your thoughts, family. Till next time, signing out.